Lately, we've talked about a lot of things here on the Out of Spec podcast, but also what is standing in the way of more people adopting EVs into their daily lives. The main factors continue to be cost, range anxiety, and the worry that the public charging infrastructure just isn't there. We will continue to dive into how the industry and the major players, including government, state and local and federal, are addressing these concerns, as well as the way that the world is pushing for a more EV forward future in general. But for now, we are seeing great growth in this sector despite all of these challenges. And we have even been seeing record-breaking numbers like we have this past quarter. Welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I am Francie. Thank you for being here today. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for tuning in. If you like to listen to the podcast on your daily drive to work or home from work or on your walk with your dog or your quiet solo walk through the neighborhood, whatever it is, if you're enjoying it, of course, leave a review if you're listening on the podcast, like the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content. It really helps us out and it helps us know that we're doing a good job. So back to the news story I would like to cover today. Just recently, Colorado announced that they are seeing record numbers for new EV sales. As you may or may not know, Colorado is home to most of the out-of-spec teams. So of course it's relevant in that way, but it's also really interesting to see the way that states on the state level are approaching the EV revolution. Of course, California has really led in the game of EVs. We've seen that again and again. They're kind of like our little petri dish to try different regulation, like massive infrastructure in terms of EVs and a lot of other things. And we see how it goes there before deploying it elsewhere. It can really be kind of a case study for a lot of things that California has been able to do before other states. So we will continue to see how we enact things that happen in California and other states, but back to Colorado. So we know that a lot of Californians and Colorados kind of switch states, but the states are very different, and we're seeing some similarities here in the EV space, though. So I've brought up this tweet straight from Capitol Hill in Denver, Colorado. The governor's office has tweeted this and announced that Colorado saw 17.1% of total vehicle purchases in this most recent quarter, which is a jump, skip, and a hop of an increase, coming up from 13% for the first half of 2023, which is a record for new EV sales in the state of Colorado. It is really affordable to get an EV in Colorado. And there's also a general push, like you can see here, from the government to not only make sure that there are incentives, but they've really focused on the practicality of how can we get people in an EV? How can we make new car sales in the state EV heavy? So Governor Jared Polis and his office have pushed a lot of EV forward regulation, like I said, through the state, and they have credited the executive action of signing new laws to deploy more EVs in Colorado and enhancing the tax incentives that are available to folks in Colorado, to them now ranking 5th in the country for EV sales. And they also reported that 1 in 5 of cars in the state being sold are electric. So these are some pretty great numbers if you're looking to get EVs on the road. You may have heard of the unanimous vote wherein the Air Quality Control Commission approved Governor Jared Polis's office's proposal to extend the zero-emission vehicle rule through 2023. This requires automakers to sell an increasing percentage of EVs in each state each year, that general zero-emission vehicle rule. But of course, each state is enacting that themselves. So this is a staged approach. And before you go asking about ICE bans in the comments, or even just, wondering how you can learn more about that, please be sure to go back and check episode 134, where I dive into the details of the California 2035 ICE ban. What it really means, I break down a little bit of the history and how California is enacting it, and give you an overview of not only how the states are going about ICE bans or pushing for more EV regulation in general and less ICE sales and more EV sales, but also what is happening globally, because the US is not the only country that is doing this, of course, and some countries are working a lot quicker than others. So we'll just be able to see how that unfolds. But it also clears up a bit of the hesitations about ICE bans that exist, or at least provides more information so you can draw a more well-rounded conclusion. The state has been taking a slower pace approach compared to California and other countries, but it's still an extremely ambitious approach. I mean, they're at 17% right now, and they're looking for 83% in less than a decade. But the trend does look good. So they are really focusing on tax incentives and practicality to encourage that EV ownership. Like I said, that is their approach. So they're not going, 100% just yet, but especially by the time that other states are really reaching for that. But 83% of all new vehicles sold being electric by 2032. I also just want to note how divided folks are on these initiatives. If you look at these total opposite takes on the side here, I just like to read them because they really show, the binary ideas that folks have about EVs and how it can really be a little bit divisive when, we could always just be curious and doubtful at the same time. One person writes, I could not imagine being stuck in a snowstorm in an ICE vehicle, having to choose if I run the engine to get heat instead of my Tesla, which could run the heat for a week straight if it needed to. Great job, Colorado. Right below it, I didn't even line these up together. Someone else writes, imagine yourself in your EV, stuck on the interstate in a Colorado blizzard, and you have 30% remaining on your battery. You can't take a chance on using the heat. The anxiety builds, panic sets in. You wish you would have taken your wife's Accord instead. So these two very different takes on the same scenario right in the comment sections of this tweet. I would also like to share this other article that comes from Cox Automotive. And Cox Automotive is the company that owns Kelley Blue Books. And so they have incredible reports that they do and that we've covered in other episodes as well. And so what this report says is that, of course, there is another quarter, another record. EV sales in the US surpassed 300,000 in quarter 3 of 2023 as Tesla's share of EV segment tumbles to 50%. So according to the Cox Automotive article that I'm referencing here that debriefs on this recent Kelley Blue Book report, total EV sales in quarter 3, according to an estimate from the Kelley Blue Book, hit over 300,000, so 313 and 86,000, which is a 49.8% increase from the same period 1 year ago, and an increase from 298,039 EVs sold in quarter 2. So again, seeing this really tick up. They also note that most automakers posted a sizable gain from 2022 to 2023, with Volvo, Nissan, Mercedes, and Hyundai delivering increases above 200%, thanks mostly to new products entering the market. Of course, that has been credited to a lot of this, that if we are able to provide more options, then of course, more people will be able to enjoy the EV offerings that exist. In quarter 3, this goes on to say 14 new EV models did not exist 1 year ago. We're now in the mix, including the Chevrolet Blazer and Silverado EVs. Those are just some that they reference. So again, this mix in the market, more people are able to find an EV that works for them. More options on the road, better and better incentives, increased public infrastructure, and probably better and better information out there, I think is really contributing to informing prospective car buyers that EV ownership could be for them. Of course, we know that there's a lot of challenges in place, but the numbers continue to trend upward. Were you surprised by them? Did you think that sales would get this high? I know that in general, if we look across the US, they are obviously not this high, but again, we're seeing a bigger and bigger piece of the pie becoming electric, which puts more and more pressure on the public infrastructure, on costs to go down, and tax incentives, and on the technology to really be what we need it to be. Let me know in the comments what you think. And thank you for tuning into the Out of Spec podcast. Of course, we love to host a conversation in the comments. Let me know what you've seen in your state or your country, your area, and would love to see how folks are feeling about this topic and what they are taking away from it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you again for tuning in. We will see you next time on the Out of Spec podcast.